From the weird Atlanta video store in 1998 to the only Atlanta video store around today, Videodrome exists as a parachronism, or a relic outside of its own time, in an era where streaming reigns and physical media is increasingly hard to come by. So, what can the archivists inside this building teach us, filmmakers and culture lovers alike, about ownership, access, and our ties to our cinematic roots? Let's find out. What's up? I'm Travis Preston from Moonshine Post-Production. We are a full-service post-production house here in the heart of Atlanta, Georgia. We've been servicing the dailies, editorial, color, sound, and finishing needs for ads, series, and feature films for over a decade. Today, we're gonna take you into an Atlanta institution, the last video rental store still standing, a staple of the film community, and a treasure trove of cinematic wonders. But what role does an archive like this play in the ecosystem of a city's film culture? Today, we're gonna crack this bad boy open and see what makes it and the minds that created it tick. Let's go. How's it going, guys?
Hey, what's going on?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, yeah.
See you.
Tommy?
All right.
So this is Videodrome. I'm here with John and Tommy, and they're gonna show us around and tell us a little bit about how this place started. So, how'd you get involved with this place?
I started working here in around 2001. I had been working at another independent video store down the street called Movies We're Seeing.
I was working with John over there, and this place had opened up in '98, and it seemed like a good place to move over to.
And that was like a time when there was tons of video stores.
Yeah, absolutely. The Movies We're Seeing sort of specialized in more of the like art house, foreign movies, classics kind of side. And then Videodrome was more of a cult store.
And is it still that way, would you guys say?
No, we've sort of gone all-encompassing.
Yeah, we sort of had to.
Yeah.
We're the only game in town,
Yeah.
so we've sort of become Atlanta's film library.
Well, it's turned into quite a beautiful collection here and quite a vibe you got going on. Do you mind just kind of showing me around and maybe showing me some of the cool movies that you guys have sourced over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, we've never had any future vision here. We never thought we would be here for 25 years. I sort of knew Matt when he opened this place.
Hey, I'm Matt Booth. I'm the owner and operator of Videodrome.
We had a mutual friend that I worked with at Movies We're Seeing, the other video store.
It's the best video store in Atlanta at the time. It had a really solid selection of documentaries, classics. It was more on the, I would say, on the academic side, but it was a really good video store.
Video stores, you have to remember, even the corporate chains, they all had to cater to the neighborhood. You know, they had to be convenient.
You know, this is a neighborhood that wanted more foreign stuff, more independent stuff, more cult stuff, more different kind of movies, and I realized that there was like a market for that.
We certainly never thought that we would outlive the 3 surrounding blockbusters. I mean, that's just an absurdity of history. Every time there's a new technology, streaming, discs by mail, you know, it's always like, well, we're done, or, you know, why would anybody come here?
I never really considered us in the same business as either like Blockbuster or Netflix. I mean, if anyone who uses streaming knows that it's like, if you're a film fan or a cinephile and you want to like really go through film, it's a terrible way to do it. We're just trying to meet the needs of like one community.
If you want to see a particular movie, you want to see that particular movie, and that's it. So a lot of people still come in looking for one thing and then sort of get what's going on here. So I don't think that's changed too much since the dawn of streaming. A lot of movies from the 80s and 90s, like the heyday of American independent cinema, are still either out of print on physical media, not available streaming, or both. So
I Shot Andy Warhol. I haven't seen that one.
yeah, it's Lily Taylor, Jared Harris. Just played at like every independent movie theater when it came out in '95.
Okay.
And now, unless you have this old DVD copy, you can't see it.
Can't watch it. Yeah, I remember this happening to me with the movie Dogma. It was one of those movies it's like pretty star-studded, especially by today's standards.
Yeah.
You know, I went to watch it like 2 years ago, and it's nowhere. It's not on Amazon, it's not any of the streaming platforms, and I couldn't even find a DVD to buy.
That's right. Yeah, Dogma is a great example.
That's the other thing too about just holding on to media when you buy it. We used to have theoretical conversations about this at Moonshine of just like, well, what is the significance of physical media? Like what if it's like, politically banned or something like this? Yeah. And we never talked about like, well, what if you buy it on a digital streaming platform and then one day it just disappears? You paid full price, you paid as much as you would for the box,
right,
and the fully restored Blu-ray, but then you go to watch it later, and because you were never able to download it, it's not yours.
It lived in their cloud, and then one day their licensing window expired, and
I guess it's in one of those long terms and services agreements that I've just checked and said yes to, and sold my first.
As we all do, as
right.
One has to even be in that ecosystem.
You do, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Physical media is a thing in the world, and it's a delicate thing. It's the best guarantee that something is accessible. If I have this at home, this disc for a week, I feel more compelled to sit down and be with it and pay attention than if it's one of 1,000 choices right in front of me. We feel like we've become, being the only video store in Atlanta, have a sort of responsibility to be more like a library.
We do fill a little bit of a role there where directors will send PAs in to rent like 4 or 5 movies for research purposes.
They're thinking of a scene they saw in a movie. It's not streaming.
I'm constantly having a conversation with the customers about what they're working on, who they're working with.
A rite of passage now to become celebrated director means revealing your inspirations and appreciate them, and then making that connection. Like Greta Gerwig made a letterbox list of inspirations on Barbie. That means that like adolescent girls will see The Umbrellas of Cherbourg and these movies that they would have never crossed their paths had they not been on this list. Watching a dystopian suburban science fiction movie from the 70s, and those connections are real, and people thrive off of that. That's what keeps people getting deeper and deeper into movies.
Even in England or something, when like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is a hit, there'll be like a bunch of other British gangster films like just after it.
So I feel like every filmmaker as they grow has to refer back to the history of cinema to build on it, learn from it, subvert it, whatever it is that they want to do in their path to becoming better filmmakers.
Comedies are one of those genres where it's like you have to know your shit in order to make funny movies.
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't just happen on accident.
Yes, it's not just good jokes, funny gags.
Right.
Timing is essential. Filmmakers come in fairly often looking for reference. And like we talked about before, like you can make a comedy that where you haven't done any research, haven't gone back and watched the classics to either learn from and then subvert. But the cinematic grammar, has been established over the decades, and it's just essential that you are familiar with it if you're going to make a movie.
Right.
And it shows if you don't. This does not reflect the views of Videodrome Worldwide LLC. But personally, I tried watching this movie. Nothing against Jennifer Lawrence. I like her. I wanted to watch a good comedy. And it's so ineptly edited.
Oh, God.
At least to me. The jokes last way too long. You see the punchline coming so far in advance. And it's a bunch of great actors, a bunch of underutilized, in this case, great comedians. And it's just super painful to watch.
No, but that's such a good point that it's comedies, it's action movies. That's the one really cool thing about having a post house in Atlanta is that because it's so Wild West still, we get genres of all types. Typically an editor, they'll be known for one thing or they'll get really good at one thing and then that's what they do. But we get a chance to work on all these types of genres, so we always have to do our research and watch a ton of that genre or that director or whatever to kind of get a sense for what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, looking at the back catalog of their projects.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure. That makes total sense.
Well, you said there were a handful of these. Can you think of any other poorly edited?
Well, this is a now notorious one.
Oh my God.
I don't know if anyone's familiar with Love on a Leash. Just looks like just looks like your standard, Marley and Me type a woman and her dog, but it's completely bizarre. And
Really?
one of our employees wrote, truly a Lynchian nightmare, mandatory group viewing. And this is a great example of not being familiar with cinematic grammar because it doesn't have music. And the dog's voice, the dog talks, obviously,
thank God
as you might have guessed.
for that.
Yeah, the dog's
I'm so
voice
happy to hear that.
doesn't match at all.
We're gonna make this mandatory viewing at Moonshine
You absolutely should
as soon as we get back. Yeah.
learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
In the last few years, seeing young 20-somethings come in and ask for movies that, like, well, yeah, we do have that, but only because Matt and I loved that movie 20 years ago and we refused to sell it. They're going deep into all kinds of genres.
20-somethings are a group that grew up with the internet, so that everything was at their fingers as far as information. Their depth of knowledge is crazy.
The kids blow our minds, and it's really encouraging, and then want to come see things in theaters and come out and support screenings.
I think 20-somethings are some of the most like educated on film, but they still have a lot of gaps to watch. So they're great as customers. Yeah, we have such a diverse customer group, but I would say that definitely our library, our selection is a direct representation of what our employees are interested in, our customers have asked for, or our employees have like want to turn people on to. Working here, talking to customers, it's great now because every single person is on the same wavelength. Everyone who comes in here has made like a choice to come in here. So we kind of have the best customers in the world.
What you get here?
Well, I did a little research, and I discovered a couple that I think you guys might have worked on.
Oh yeah. It's cool to just like see it here in a rental store, especially your rental store, and it's kind of like full circle. You know,
Yeah.
It's like filmmaker comes to Videodrome, gets inspired by previous filmmakers, goes out, Atlanta's booming, they make a movie, fully developed, shot, posted in Atlanta, and then it's right back here where it started.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful. Yeah, so it just builds and builds, and you know, people ask for suggestions. They're opening themselves up to our weird taste, so
Right.
it doesn't always work. You can
Yeah.
send someone home with a Japanese horror movie that
They're like, okay, great, never coming back
Yeah.
here. Like, how much is that interaction like part of like the relationship you have with the film community here?
it's a big part. It's, you know, a real service, handing out titles, figuring out those things. I guess we've gotten, you know, sort of good at it depending on the customer's open-mindedness. And people are really open-minded. People be like, oh, thanks for recommending those. And I'm like, man, thanks for, you know, giving
Coming
a shit
after
that
me. Yeah.
for being open-minded enough to spend $5 on something a stranger recommended.
Maybe that's another really cool thing about Atlanta. We don't have the generations and generations of people that developed like genre films and big studio films and things like that. We've been scrappy, we've figured it out. And from that, you guys are seeing people that are open-minded and open to taking in all of the cinema, which I think says a lot about the culture and the consciousness here too.
Yeah, I feel like, though, it's becoming more palpable. I mean, the number of one-time screenings at theaters like the Plaza, I mean, including the ones we do, but the ones that Wussy Mag does, now a bunch of other people are doing these very curated screenings. And
I love that.
yeah, and they do so well. And then people, you know, let out and people will come by here and, you know, like, oh, I want to see this person's earlier movie, or who's this actress? And yeah, it does feel like a renaissance of film culture in Atlanta.
That's an exciting statement.
It felt more like a retail business when we first opened. Now it feels like a true specialty business where everyone who comes in here is like a cinephile. They want to be here. Our ties to the community have gotten deeper. Our importance has gotten deeper. And like sort of everything we've done has become more focused over the years.
Coming in Videodrome is different from endlessly scrolling, which is a cliche, but we all do it, you know. There's just something about the way things are organized, the depth of what we have in a genre from a country by a director. It just seems to keep growing, that people realize that, oh, well, if I'm interested in cinema, then this is the place to come and look through.
Well, you know, I think what you guys are doing here is a representation of what I hope Atlanta continues to become, which is one that is open-minded and diverse and weird and artistic and cool.
It feels like it's becoming that. Talking about the filmmaking world and the film fan world, it does feel like those things are finally starting to cross over and become like a bigger community in Atlanta.
So if you are in Atlanta, if you're coming to visit Atlanta, if you're just stopping by on your way through to somewhere else, come and hang out with the Videodrome folks, with John, with Matt, with Tommy. Stop by the plaza, see some cool screenings, get a little dose of some film culture while you're here. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate it. It's been great.
We'll definitely be stopping back by to just hang and rent some more movies.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much.
Of course.
This has been great.
Talk to you later.
Peace.
Videodrome and the video rental house as an institution, it's also an archive of the philosophies of filmmakers past and present. In the words of David Cronenberg, who directed Videodrome back in 1983, you're not only watching me develop as a filmmaker, if you've seen my earlier films, but you're also kind of watching me learn how to be a human. You're watching my philosophy evolve. Having access to our cinematic roots also allows us to develop our own worldview. And that's important if we're ever gonna unearth exactly what it is that the South has to say. Join the discussion in the comments below, and for all your post-production needs, check out Moonshine Post-Production in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Travis Preston, and I'll see you next time.